we kind of eat up a lot of time with the segments, and I'm listening to your emails. I'm getting them. We are going to try and retool the format of the show as we go. I'm going to try and do this a little bit more. In Lawrence this week, we have a city council that was on the verge of voting no on a Rich, do you remember how much the grant is for? $145,000 grant was offered to the city of Lawrence for homeless people. Now, this grant that was offered to homeless people in Lawrence is mostly for transitional housing. So when someone is homeless, they go to maybe like the Daybreak Homeless Shelter or some local homeless shelter, and they can sign up for programs, get job training, maybe get help applying for jobs. I know that the psychological center will help people get haircuts if you've got a job interview. They might even have some clothes that you can wear, some nice clothes that you can wear to go for a job interview. And once you've done that and you've shown that you want to have a better life for yourself, that you don't want to live on the street, that you want to do better, then they have these transitional programs for you. And they try and pair people up and get them roommates. They work with landlords to help them get a place to live, so they're not on the street bumming for money. And this money will go for transitional housing. So when they try and they get a couple of homeless people, they're working with a landlord. They got to come up with first and last month's rent. They got to come up with security deposits. Most homeless people don't have that. In fact, no homeless person has that. So this money would go for the landlords to cover their expense for their first and last month's rent and their security. So it's helping the landlord because they're renting out their empty space and they're getting paid, right? And it's helping the homeless person because they've got a roommate to help share with electric bills and heating bills and rent. And so they try and work them through these programs so that people can get back into society. They can get back on the grid, so to speak. And Lawrence was about to turn this money down. And we came in last week and we eviscerated them. And a number of people in the community called City Council President Kendrys Vasquez, who said he was voting no, and just eviscerated him. And I guess they got a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls. So last night, the Lawrence City Council, Tuesday night, I don't sleep, so 2 days to me is still yesterday. The Lawrence City Council voted unanimously to accept this money. And the reason this is important, now look, I'm a right-wing Tea Party conservative guy. I'm not for spending money on this kind of stuff unless we know it works and it's going to actually help people. But we find out that how these grants work is that if Lawrence accepts this grant, the Daybreak Homeless Shelter, the Psychological Center, all the organizations in Lawrence now become eligible for more grants. They now become eligible for other stuff because they accepted the housing grant. So there might be a laundry grant to help homeless people when they're in a homeless shelter to get their laundry done. There may be a job training grant that Lawrence will qualify for. So I want to congratulate the Lawrence City Council for doing the right thing, although I think they did it because of public pressure. They still did the right thing. They deserve congratulations. Lawrence has a really bad homeless problem. And you've got people, there's 100 people walking the streets of Lawrence right now while we're talking, who are bumming a cigarette off somebody, who are hanging around outside a coffee shop or 24-hour mini mart and begging for money from people and making it an unsafe situation. I don't want to see it. I drive through the city. I don't want to see it. I understand they're homeless, but I don't want them creating unsafe situations in my city either. I don't even live in Lawrence anymore, but I still consider it my city. We need more programs for the homeless. But one of the problems that we have with the homeless in Lawrence is that there are a number of homeless people who aren't from Lawrence in Lawrence. And why is that? Because if you live in Methuen, and by the way, Methuen, I'm going to be coming to your next city council meeting to speak. You can count on that, Jen Canan. I will be there. Because if you live in Methuen or North Andover, let's say you own $1 million home and your wife throws you out and you've got nowhere to go. And you spent thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over your lifetime in that community. Does North Andover or Methuen have services for their own citizens that become homeless? They don't. So if you live in North Andover and your wife throws you out and you have to get a lawyer and fight to maybe try and get your property back, and you got nowhere to sleep tonight, where do you go? Is there a homeless shelter in North Andover for you to go? If you're a Methuen resident, is there a homeless shelter in Methuen for their citizens? How about Andover or North Reading? Do they have a homeless shelter for their citizens when they become homeless? No, they don't. So what happens to all of those people? They all filter into Lawrence and cause problems. They all filter into Lawrence and seek government services. So I get why the city council was hesitant to accept this grant. They didn't want it to be a magnet for all the homeless people from surrounding communities. But let me ask you this. Like, again, I'm a right-wing Tea Party guy, right? But these are human beings. So what do you do with them? You just let them freeze? You let them starve? You just close your eyes and say, it's not my problem? What is your problem? Because if you're not spending money on a homeless shelter for these people, or a soup kitchen to feed them, they're breaking into your home to find money to do those things. They're stealing your car to get money to do those things. And it just creates an unsafe situation. So, A, I'm glad that the city council did what they did. Absolutely thrilled. And I understand their trepidation about it. I think North Andover should have their own homeless shelter. I think Methuen should certainly have their own homeless shelter. I'm aghast that people run for office in North Andover and Methuen on a progressive platform and tout how liberal they are and how much they care about the poor and how much they care about illegal aliens and how much they care about the downtrodden, and then do absolutely friggin' nothing for the people who are their citizens when they become homeless or they become hungry or they are in need of some basic service. In a community that's as rich as North Andover and Andover, in a community that's as well off as Methuen is, I think they need to be stepping up to the plate. So yes, at the next town meeting in Andover, I'm going to be speaking. At the next city council meeting in Methuen, I'm going to be speaking. And at the next town meeting in North Andover, I'm going to be speaking. And I'm going to be holding these people who call themselves liberal to their own standard. I'm going to force them to walk the walk, or we're going to just humiliate them. Because that's, let's face it, what I do best, right? All right, what else do we have? We got. I think we have one more topic here. It's kind of a personal thing. I'm not sure I really should talk about it this late in the day. But I'm just stunned. I have a debilitating physical condition, and I need medication every 5 weeks. I have to take a self-injection. So my medicine didn't show up last week. And I called Wallgreens Specialty Pharmacy and said, hey, I didn't get my medication. What's the story? Well, we sent it. It shows that it was delivered. I'm like, yeah, well, it never showed up. So can you please just send me another box, send me my medication? Oh, no, Mr. Duggan. We first have to do a full investigation to find out where that box went. Well, listen, Wallgreens, I shouldn't have to suffer because you screwed up. If you want to go out and you want to do an investigation as to where that box ended up because the FedEx guy left it somewhere in the wrong place, why do I have to wait? Why do I have to be in pain now for the next week or two while you figure out what you did wrong? And they're all like this. All these specialty pharmacies are like this, but I deal with Wallgreens, so we're going to talk about Wallgreens. So I guess I guess the message that they're telling us all is, if Wallgreens screws up, Wallgreens is not going to replace your medicine until Wallgreens figure out what Wallgreens did wrong. I'm not sure why I should have to wait for that. That's not my responsibility. And the guy on the phone's telling me, well, Mr. Duggan, it's not my fault that we lost your package. No, you're right. But it's your fucking job to fix it. So how about do that? How about send me my medication and then figure out where the box went? We're not talking about opioids. I'm not ordering Vicodin. I'm ordering Casantix. It's a biologic. There isn't even a black market for it because the medicine's no good if you don't take it within the first 24 hours. It's got to be chilled. It's got to be frozen, right? So this morning I called Wallgreens and I got, well, we're still investigating. Well, good. You do that. And I'm going to start talking about it publicly. I'm going to write about it in my newspaper. And I'm going to hire a lawyer because I'm in pain. I woke up this morning in pain. I woke up yesterday in pain. And the only reason I'm in pain is because Wallgreens Specialty Pharmacy thinks it's more important for them to figure out how they fucked up than to give me my medication. Since I posted about this on Facebook, and then I'll wrap up. Since I posted about this on Facebook, I have been inundated with emails from people with horror stories about Wallgreens Pharmacy and either getting the wrong medication, not getting the medication on time, all kinds of horror stories. I'm going to read every single one of those emails, and every story that I think is worth printing, we're going to write a story about it, because there are people out there. I don't have cancer. I don't have AIDS. what I have is very minor compared to what other people are dealing with in this world. But what if I did? What if I was one of those people that had cancer or AIDS or some other really debilitating disease? And they're not going to get their medication until Wallgreens figures out how they fucked up? I mean, excuse my French, but I thought they were in the business to help people. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Wallgreens as we go, and we're going to be investigating Wallgreens. We're going to be investigating how these mail order prescriptions work, how they should work. I'm going to talk to our state reps. Are there any violations of state law that they have violated by not giving me my medication? And we're going to put it to them. Because you know what? If they can do it to me, they can do it to you. And that's how I always look at it. It's always interesting when I find out how people who are not Tom Duggan get treated sometimes. Because people know who I am. I own a newspaper. A lot of people know me. I'm considered, infamous or famous, whatever you want locally. And so I realize that I get treated differently when I call someone and I ask them for something because they know who I am. I own a newspaper. Some people are afraid of me. Some people like me, whatever. But when I find out how people who are not Tom Duggan get treated, when I find out how the average person out there gets treated, and it's something like this, it infuriates me. It infuriates me that if it's happening to me, somebody out there who needs their cancer medication is not getting it because Wallgreens screwed up. And the corporate's never going to tell you that. CNN is never going to write a story about that because Wallgreens is a big, huge, multi-billion-dollar corporation who, the minute they find out that CNN's thinking about doing a story about that, buys a ton of advertising on CNN and kills the story. The same way UMass Lowell bought tons of advertising in the Lowell Sun when the Lowell Sun was about to write a story about them covering up rapes at UMass Lowell. That was probably about 5 years ago. We wrote about that in the Valley Patriot. So as soon as you get to the corporate level, which is why I love that we're doing this here, because nobody can silence me. I'm not at CAP anymore. Colonel Sam can't walk in and say, "You can't talk about Elizabeth Warren. She got my kid a job." Well, guess what? No one's going to tell me what I can and can't say on this program. And we have the freedom here, myself and any guest who comes on, to say what they believe to be true. Because we live in a free country. And you ought to be able to say what you believe to be true, whether you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar corporation like Wallgreens or you're talking about the President of the United States. Next week, we are going to have, we're going to try and get DJ Deeb in here. I know in 2 weeks we have Mike Demers is going to come in. There's a big story coming. I'm just going to preview this and then I'm going to bounce out. There's a big story coming. There's a guy named Mike Demers, originally from Lawrence. He lives in Salem, New Hampshire. And he sued Haffners Oil Company because they overflowed his tanks with like 250 gallons of oil, destroyed his mother's home. They hired all kinds of environmental people to come in and look at it. They supposedly cleaned it up, but didn't do a good job. They've had health problems because of it. They sued, and they lost. Mostly they lost because they didn't have enough money to get a really good lawyer. And Haffners has multi-billion-dollar lawyers on their side. So when all of that went away and he lost his case, he started this public campaign on Twitter to shame Haffners, saying, "Hey, you might have won your case, but my mom is still living in a house that smells like oil. How about just do the right thing and come fix it? The judge says you don't have to, but how about just be a human being and do it?" Haffners is suing this kid, who, by the way, has zero money. Like, he's unemployed, right? Haffners is suing this kid and trying to force him to take down his Facebook pages and his Twitter pages in Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County Superior Court next month, the trial begins. I will be there. I will be there. I'm going to have friends from other members of the press there because it's a First Amendment case. Mike Demers has every right to go on Facebook and go on Twitter and harpoon and mock Haffners and Acadia, who's the insurance company that screwed them over. He has every single right to say, hey, they may have won their case in court. The law may have said that they don't have to come and finish this job that they should finish. But morally speaking, I think they should be human beings and do it and do the right thing, so I'm going to keep putting pressure on them to do it. He's got every right to say it. Every right. And I don't know. I don't understand why Haffners and Acadia. I did some math. I'm not really good at math because I went to Lawrence High, but I did some math. I used a calculator. And come to find out that Acadia Insurance spent twice as much money fighting this case in court than if they had just built this guy a new house. Twice as much money. So it's not even really about the money. It's about screwing people. Acadia Insurance and Haffners Oil, it's about screwing people. And we're going to have him on the show in 2 weeks. And then I'm going to show up at his trial. We're going to write a full story about it in the Valley Patriot. And then we're going to come back and we're going to let you guys know what happened. All right, let's wrap up. We'll do the music. I know we're a little late. I apologize for that. I want to thank Twin Lights Security. They do my security. They're also a private investigative service. I want to thank John Mulligan at BNI. We certainly appreciate Joe Zingalis for all he does for our veterans at Team Zingala Century 21. A&M Auto Body. We're going to have Angelo in here at some point talking about stuff. Jeff Deal is going to be a guest on the program in a couple of weeks. He's running for Senate in Massachusetts. And then we're going to try and get some New Hampshire people in here, too. Thank you so much for watching. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Pick up Heroes in Our Midst on Amazon.com. That's our book. And read the Valley Patriot. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.